We are broadcasting live. Man, this is boy, we're kind of doing our I got on my glasses here this morning. We were kind of doing our pre-talk here, and this could be a very interesting conversation. Kirk M. Samuels, the intimacy incubator, which kind of will feed into this topic here this morning. And I got my man. This is his second time around on Uplift. I got one of the men of men around on the line, and let me introduce you all to my man, Brett the Hitman Zachman. Nah, I just totally came up with that nickname. I completely out of the blue. How you doing, my man? Are you up this morning?
I am up. Thanks to you, man. Up bright and early, still dark, ready to rock.
Hey, now have you run your mile yet?
No. I saved that. So I'm gonna hit this and then hit the mile.
So really quickly, what is that whole thing? What was my mile reference? I'll let you explain it real quick.
Yeah, no problem. For those watching, we talk about physical fitness, especially with men, and especially men our age. I hate to say it like that, huh, Kirk? But we are getting of that age. So middle-aged men, testosterone drops through the floor. And it's pretty well known. And so a couple of years back, I turned 43 on January 1st. And I've run in the past and done some races, nothing major, just, 5Ks, 10Ks, stuff like that. And learning more and more about daily habits and discipline. And I thought, you know what, I should set a goal. I need a goal. So I said, what if I ran 43 miles in 43 days? Because I just turned 43. So it wasn't about the down and distance. It was really about the daily discipline. Like, could I pull it off? I was actually kind of curious. And so I set out and, 1 day, 3 days, 5 days, get into it. And when it was all said and done, it took me 45 days to get my 43 days in. So I felt pretty damn good about that. And I mean, this is January and February in Colorado. So it didn't matter if there was 6 inches of snow on the ground. It didn't matter if it was -6 degrees. It was outside, right? That was part of it, kind of the man up piece. And, but what it taught me is, daily disciplines. So.
Wow. And daily discipline actually kind of is a little bit part of your career, man, in terms of what you do for a living. Now, last time we had you on, we had you on to talk about finances, to talk about just kind of men and money.
Yeah.
And so give a little bit of your career background.
Yeah, absolutely. So real quick overview, like 30 years in 3 minutes. In my 20s, I worked for corporate America, and I helped a lot of other businesses make money. In my 30s, I got, wild hairs going and bootstrapped, my own money. Started one company that went well for about 4 years. 2008, crushed it. Then started a second company and went through a business divorce and lost everything I had and more. Lost my money, a silent investor's money. I short sold my dream house, had to declare personal and business bankruptcy. I mean, that all happened between about 2008 and 2010. So for any of those men out there following Kirk and all the massive, wonderful things that he's doing on our behalf, if your identity is wrapped up in your pocketbook, you want to shift that. Because bad things can happen to good people all the time. I'm proof in the pudding. And you don't want your identity wrapped into how much money you have. Now, 8 years later, I start working for Five Rings Financial, meet the CEO at my grandmother's funeral. You can't make up those kind of stories. And now I've elevated myself back up to a senior vice president and dug myself out of the financial grave. And so the daily discipline, we do a lot of teaching on that. I really like is we break it down very simply and make it accessible to anybody in America and say, could you save $5 a day? And that's pretty basic. I mean, most of us, it's like by 5 p.m. in the afternoon, I don't even know where my $5 went. It's like salt in the dryer. I had it. It was in there somewhere, one pocket or the other. I don't know where it went. So what I appreciate is bringing that to the masses, because so many people, I think, they buy into the hype. Well, I got to have money to make money. Or 2018, heck, this is the supersize me society now, so I got big money to make big money. And once you study money, you come to understand that's just an urban legend. That's a total myth. That is not how one becomes wealthy. You become wealthy with small amounts of money consistently over a prolonged period of time at a decent interest rate, and get wealthy eventually planned versus the get rich quick scheme.
So would you say it's important for men today to be concerned about their money, or I mean, or is money a bad thing? Is money the root of all evil?
Oh, see, I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
And raised in the church, I was Lutheran, which I jokingly say in the 31 flavors is like Catholic light. Um, that's a misnomer, right? It's not the love of money that's the root of all. It's the love of, right? So it's not money is the root of all evil. It's the love of money is the root of all evil. And we miss that part. When you miss those three little words, the love of, that's talking about the idolatry. Money is just an inanimate object. It's just a resource. It's positive or negative based on whom is manipulating it. And of course, money can be used for incredibly good things by lots of people, but it can also be used for incredibly bad things. So if you disconnect your attachment from money, you start to view it for what it truly is, then what I like to think, Kirk, is what you're teaching men is, are you the master of your ship, or is it mastering you? Is money mastering you, or are you mastering your money? Physical fitness and that 1 mile every morning, am I mastering my mind and my body to get it up, get it moving, get it going? Or is it mastering me and telling me every morning, nah, just lay in bed for another 2 hours, and let's go have 3 donuts for breakfast?
Wow. So, man, that was all that was kind of into the foray of part of who you are, but that's not the reason. That's not what I wanted to get into today. I wanted to set the stage and to kind of obviously extend a platform to you, because I believe in you, and you're one of my guys. You're on the squad. But today, man, I wanted to get into something else that you do. Besides everything you just said, you also have another passion, and that would be in the area of working with men and kind of changing, if you will, or helping to direct kind of the course of the way manhood is going today. Would that be a good kind of?
Yeah, that's a great lead in. I appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. I would say guide, right? We as men in our adulting years, we really don't want to be told what to do. And you can talk about the energy of that. When people push at you to try and get a result, then typically you're met with resistance. But if you pull, men, and to me, pulling is the invitation, right? The invitation into something. And so when I went through separation and divorce some 15 years ago now already, it ripped my life apart. It was unbelievable. I had no foresight for what was about to occur. And, I did 3 of the top 5 most stressful things in the world: changed my living space, changed my career, launched my first company. And then we changed our marriage, became estranged, separated, and then later divorced. Don't do that, guys. Don't overachieve in super stressful life events and do it simultaneously. I don't recommend it. But anything that doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And so what gestated out of that was the idea of, okay, well, where do men go when the shit hits the fan? In our adulting years. When we're kids, we're always in groups. Figure it out. I couldn't really put my finger on it. Like, when did that shift? Was that when I was 20, 24, 28, 32? Sort of this slow evolution, and all of a sudden men seemingly live our adult lives sort of lone wolves, proving to ourselves and the rest of the world how we can do everything alone. And that's an awesome program until crap hits the fan. And the job loss, or the cancer, or the divorce, or something severe or traumatic happens with a child, or any and all of those kind of things can come up. And then where do men turn? And I could only come up with 2 answers: bars and churches. Bars are problematic for obvious reasons. We don't need to go over that. Churches actually can be also a little bit. And so I started building this idea of being, a place for men to come together, gather together, and started to build this community. this idea of, okay, where do guys like you and I, like-minded, extraordinary men, go to talk about the real stuff? Not about how many beers we had, not about how hot women are, not about if the Broncos won or lost. Some of that deeper, meatier stuff, the stuff you like to sink your teeth into there, Mr. Samuels.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And so great segue. So I got this the other day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got that from you at coffee. It's the it's kind of something you put together for B-Men, and on the very first page, and we're also kind of getting into the meat of this, but on the very first page you have the mission as the Brotherhood of Extraordinary Men, B-Men, as a call to action to reach millions of men through wellness initiatives, emotional, financial, mental, physical, and spiritual. We seek to shift their paradigm by empowering them to positively impact the lives of those near and dear to them. And you talk about the values, and then you go into each one. That's brand new, hot off the presses. And so, in the context of what you do in terms of your your passion about guiding men and pulling men, and I do believe in calling out the greatness, calling out the hero in a man. And you and I got some stuff that we're also leaning towards for next spring that we'll get into. But in the context of B-Men and your passion about B-Men, man, I came across something else in our culture, in our society here that I wanted to get your quick take on. And maybe this is something that we end up coming back to at another point, but I came across this concept of MGTOW, or men going their own way, and MGTOW. And, this is not, neither one of us are I would consider maybe experts on this movement of men, but just in what we can find out there. And I've interacted with some guys that kind of follow this loose, kind of this loose, I guess, cultural shift. And so I'm reading off of MGTOW.com, and it says, men going their own way is a statement of self-ownership where the modern man preserves and protects his own sovereignty above all else. It is the manifestation of one word, no, ejecting silly preconceptions and cultural definitions of what a man is, looking to no one else for social cues, refusing to bow, serve, and kneel for the opportunity to be treated like a disposable utility, and living according to his own best interest in a world which would rather he didn't. It talks about sovereignty, and and this is just a website. And like I said, from what I was able to gather, I actually put out a kind of a post on Facebook, social media, asking, if there are any guys that are, that would be part of that, and no one kind of responded. So that's kind of what what their website says. And then, as I've interacted with a lot of guys, and some, again, it's kind of loose, and a lot of it kind of falls under the general umbrella of men's rights and that sort of thing, the red pill, blue pill, and all those kinds of things. The guys that I've interacted with, and I mean, putting that together with what I read on their website, it seems to me, and Wikipedia kind of has a different spin. Wikipedia kind of gives a bigger view, but ultimately, all of that said, my impression is that that MGTOW movement seems to be kind of an anti-feminism, but then also kind of an anti-relationship, anti-marriage, anti-having kids. It seems to be kind of against those kind of ideals and those kind of concepts in our culture. And so I wanted to just put that out there, man, and just kind of, not only get your opinion, but then also, just kind of two guys throwing back and forth, just the concept of what all that looks like to you. What's your first impression about that in our culture?
When you read that mission statement, I really you know, that resonates with me to a certain degree. I mean, it's maybe not the exact words that Min is using in terms of empowering and encouraging and uplifting, you know, as your program is, UpliftHim, other men. So I kind of like that. Now, of course, as you and I both know, you get of an age that you need to be educated. So anything, I kind of call it the lottery ticket. You know, anything and anybody can look really good on the outside, have that little nice little silver foil lining. It's pretty, shiny, attractive. And then you got to scratch below the surface and see what's what. And I spent a little bit of time last night, so of course I'm no expert on MGTOW, but got on their website, checked out the Wikipedia, actually had a conversation with a female just to get an opinion from the feminine perspective. Saw there was some 32, almost 33,000 men, their website says, are following, you know, what they're serving up and what they stand for. And some of the stuff that on its face sounded great, of men empowering each other and being empowered. And then you start to dig further, and you know, there was a comment, and I'm just, you know, so I get this right, you know, we've got this term called misogyny, right? And so we've got the feminist movement, and I talk a lot about, okay, checks and balances, right? We have checks and balances, and the matriarch and the patriarch. And the patriarch has really been in charge for about 2,000 years. I mean, 100 years ago, in the greatest democracy that ever existed, women were second-class citizens, couldn't even vote. So we had the feminist movement. I don't think men should necessarily feel challenged by that. I don't think men should feel diminished by that. I think we should stand secure and understand that women were doing and have been doing for the last several generations what they think is necessary to uplift themselves, you know, to a place of equality in America. Now, having said that, if women take it too far, and then, you know, uplifting the matriarch becomes bashing or pushing down the patriarch, well, then that's not helpful, right? I don't think that to uplift a woman, you have to diminish a man. And of course, in those things, you have big spectrum. So, you know, there's this horrible phrase of like the feminazi or whatever out there, where, you know, and I've heard stuff like women talking about way out on the fringe that, you know, men are just glorified sperm donors. And of course, that's total emasculation of man. So it seems almost like what I got into with MGTOW was, this was almost like a response to that. It was like, you know what, no. If you're going to start bashing on us and emasculating us and pushing us down, then we're going to respond in kind. And we're going to lift up men, and we're going to really press women down. You know, like it made a comment here about a slogan of save a man and stop a wedding. Like, what? I don't know about you, but I grew up, and the whole dream I had my whole life was that healthy, happy family unit. You know, like from the commercials, you remember the one where it shows like the 4 feet sticking out of that end of the bed underneath the comforter? You know, there's 2 big feet, and then there's 2 little feet. I was like, yeah, that's what I want. I just want all that. And I personally think that we were built kind of nature and nurture for connection and community. And you can go into a whole lot of stuff about that. Like you can go back into failure to thrive in infants, where they kind of proved in some nurseries that if babies weren't touched, held, didn't have human interaction, you couldn't quite explain it medically, that they literally would start to die. And of course, then there's other things like, okay, look into the penal code. What's the worst form of human punishment? It's solitary confinement. You can literally take a human being, male or female, and turn them insane by isolating them. And so my concern underneath that shiny silver lining with MGTOW is you start hearing things like misogyny. You start hearing, I'm kind of glancing down at my phone here because I want to get it right. You start hearing things like save a male, stop a wedding. You start hearing that, you know, from the founder that, you know, women are manipulative whores and liars, or that you need to do this 100% alone. That was kind of the whole reason I started V-Men in the first place, was isolation does not help a man. I mean, and that doesn't have to be your opinion or my opinion. That's just straight fact. They've proven currently a couple things. Divorced men suffer suicide rates 2 to 3 times higher than married men. Now, of course, if we go the MGTOW route, I would imagine if there's somebody on the line with us representing them, they say, exactly, Zach, Kirk, that's why a man shouldn't get married in the first place, because then he dies 2 to 3 times greater when it doesn't work out. Well, then my point would be, actually, no, I think men who are divorced suffer suicide 2 to 3 times greater is because they're disconnected. Between their head and their heart, they're either snipped fully or it's tarnished or frayed. Between nature and nurture, we've been taught things like big boys don't cry, don't have an emotion, don't be a wussy, all those kind of cliches, to where we're emotionally repressed. And so when a man separates from his female partner, she was his emotional connector. So the one person that was kind of his friend, his confidant, his companion that he would go to in a time of need, she's gone. So now he's on his own. So now he's feeling isolated. And since he didn't know how to do what you're doing and what we're doing with being men, he hasn't created that tight sphere of inner buddies, warriors, to help him in life. And so that's why I think that men are suffering that way. And then furthermore, Men's Health magazine put out a stat this June, Men's Health Month, that suicide has become the second leading cause of death in boys/men ages 10 to 35. Ridiculous number to me. That's disgusting. How in the world, in the greatest supposed democracy that's ever existed, one of the wealthiest, on the planet, are boys/men saying, you know what, it's just not worth it. I can't find my place. I can't find my identity. I'd rather not be here at all forever. And then that gets me back into thinking, okay, well, how does MGTOW deal with that? If they're preaching fierce independence, lone wolf, island in a hurricane, I can do this all myself because I'm a man, that's the exact machismo route that got me really in a bind at the age of 34 when I got divorced.
Yeah, and I kind of, as I looked, I have some of the similar, not only experiences with personal experiences with talking with guys that kind of follow this, this trend. But yeah, it seems like on the website, it seemed kind of a little bit watered down from the passion that a lot of these guys kind of have just in communicating all that. And to me, the concept seems to be a lot, it seems to be really heavily focused on just, again, anti-relationship and we don't need women and all those kinds of things. And to your point, I don't know that you need to, put down women in order to elevate men. If so, then that speaks to an insecurity in manhood, where it's always a form of insecurity when you have to put down something to feel like you need to elevate something else. I mean, as you can see over my shoulder, those are my 4 kids. I got, 3 daughters and a son. So to some degree, I am a feminist in terms of I am pro women and pro, everything that could benefit my 3 daughters. I'm also a pro masculinist, if that's a word, in terms of everything that could benefit that guy and that guy in the middle. I mean, to me, when the tide comes in, all boats rise. Now, I don't think the issue should be let's run away from relationship. I think the issue should be, how do we do relationship better? And how do we do relationship correctly? How do we balance that paradigm between the masculine and the feminine coming together like a yin and a yang, and coming together and doing it correctly and doing it right? My other huge issue with that is, if you're gonna have the mentality of we don't need women, we don't need women in our lives, then do you objectify women? Do you objectify women in a digital form, or do you objectify women when you see a woman on the street, or do you consume women in any kind of way, whether it be sexually, emotionally, mentally, any kind of way like that? And so, that's my kind of thing. I do believe that we're warriors, and I mean, you even espouse to warriorhood in here. I do believe that there's a gift in manhood, and there's some things that we're called to, and I don't think that masculinity has to include isolation, because that, to me, that's the opposite of masculinity. Um, but I don't think we have to include that. But at the same time, I think we have to look at how we're doing masculinity. And again, we're coming to the end of our time here a little bit, but this is kind of, maybe maybe this is something we need to look at in the future, of discussing of how are we doing masculinity today, and how are we doing it, how should we be doing it, and how are we doing it today.
That's an awesome point, because I believe exactly what you believe. I believe that true masculinity is building the bridge back, right? Let's stop the divisiveness. Let's stop the polarization. Let's stop the us versus them versus us. What happened to the golden rule, right? Treat others the way you wish to be treated. And furthermore, I think part of the power in men is as the provider, the protector, right? And so if you think, there's a gentleman, Jeff Ruiz, that's one of the advisory council members for B-Men. I thought he did a fantastic job when he put out a post that basically said, hey, what if you treated every woman in your life as if she were your mother, your sister, or your daughter? So if these guys at MGTOW are getting super down on women, and hey, we don't need women at all, and women are just glorified baby makers, and that's the only reason you'd have one in your life. How do you treat your mom?
Yeah, that's the other thing too, of how do you, all of us came here through a mom. All of us came here
without women. There's this interesting thing, we wouldn't be here. This species called Homo sapiens would be gone.
Yeah, we've all traveled through a woman. I mean, I don't think any of us.
You kind of got to acknowledge she had to do with it.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are here absent of that female journey of coming through a woman. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a balance in that. And then, I think how we see ourselves in relationship to women today. And, I think some of where their mentality might be coming from is kind of in what could be seen today as almost a culture of men being either a financial or resource commodity and that kind of stuff. But, and how courts can be slanted towards women, which I kind of agree but disagree with in terms of perspective. But my thing is, the reason why, why did I end up in divorce court in the first place? I mean,
right.
I can't complain about the way divorce court panned out when in my mind, I had a whole lot to do, if not all of it to do, or the main reason as to why I ended up in divorce court twice. So,
right.
I mean, these are great topics to explore, just in terms of how we're doing this thing, and is it really realistic that we can just do life without women? A, I don't know if that's possible. B, I don't know if that's even right.
I don't think we can, and I don't think we want to. With B-Men, what interesting that a thing has happened where women came and said, some powerful women have said over the years to me, Zach, please don't make it a secret. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They said, your society for men. And then I connected the dots. I'm like, oh, you mean like Masons. So now we have layers in the organization, right? We have the public-facing website, then we've got kind of an online Facebook community, and then we got the man cave. Well, in that second layer, we have women, hundreds of women who are loosely associated, kind of out on the outer sphere with B-Men. Why? Because I don't want a single female in America to say, oh yeah, B-Men, those whole bunch of he-man, woman-hating, chauvinistic pigs, because then that just increases the divide and the divisiveness. I think how we get to the next layer, the next level of evolution here with humanity is together, not apart.
Yeah, you always need the other side in whatever it is, the movement or the journey. And one of the ways I relate that is, the civil rights movement needed white people to get involved. I mean, it's part of, it's part of the balance of it all, in terms of, you can't just do anything completely one-sided in terms of creating cultural change and cultural shift and just kind of a cultural elevation of thought. And so, to have that now, I think it takes a man to make a man. So I don't think, I don't think it's healthy for a woman to dictate what masculinity should be in terms of us leading us and that sort of thing. I think, but I think ultimately, her femininity is kind of again, that yin and that yang to the masculinity. And so what is my masculinity without the existence of femininity in our world?
Yeah, we'd be monochromatic, and there's a lot of talk around that the angst in men, the anger, it is like internal rage that then explodes out. And there's some talk, if you like young boys going into schools and shooting the place up. Haven't really heard of a young lady doing that, but you hear about young boys doing that, and I think they don't have. We're starting to talk about this with B men, like their tool belt. What's your B men tool belt? The tool belt for life. What life skills were you taught in school or in the home? And to your point, a man begets a man. So a father, if you're seeing a boy or a younger man who's exhibiting traits we don't like, my first question is, what's his relationship with his father, and how involved was his father, and what tools did his father have to beget down to him?
Yeah.
Positive tools of character, integrity, passion, focus, discipline, or did he pass down things like codependency, passive aggressiveness, alcoholism, stuff like that? And so if you're thinking about, okay, we need stronger men, then we got to teach them. Mm-hmm. And we got to encourage them. And part of that is, chivalry is not dead. I just want to say that right now on your show. A gentle man does not make you a wussy.
A weak man.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, doesn't make you that.
And so men don't have to go, oh my God, I can't exhibit a feminine trait or I'm not a man. No, you're all of it, brother. You're sensitive and you're strong.
Yeah, man, I think this could be a dynamic. And actually, I'm thinking of even one or two other guys that I would love to involve into this conversation in terms of panels. Maybe we'll have to come back to this at some point, man. I think, I think maybe there's an insecurity about masculinity today in terms of what is masculinity, and is masculinity kind of fading away? Do I have to become more feminine to be a man today, and those kind of things? And anytime there's insecurity, that to me that's breeding ground for some kind of hyper overcompensation of that. And to me, that's one of the roots of something like a racism, where I am insecure about my own race. So then therefore I have to seek to eradicate another race, or to put down another race, or to make inferior another race. And I mean, I think that can go back and forth in terms of gender, our gender identities as well, misogyny or misandry. So, man, we're already a little bit over time. We could go, we got to come back to this, man, at some point.
Maybe there's a part 2 in here, huh?
Yeah, sometime in the next, in the next little bit of time, we got to reschedule this one, man. So, so real quickly, how can people get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of you?
Oh yeah, sure. Great question. Reach out to me, Zach, Z-A-C-H at bmen, BEMEN.org. Go to our website, bmen.org. You can find us on other social media platforms as well. Like we're on Instagram, it's at bmenbrothers, or you can find us on Facebook at the same, at bmenbrothers.
Awesome, and we'll probably be posting this on your Facebook group when the email comes out, or when the YouTube link. People can reach out, and so guys can reach out to you not only for their masculinity but for their money as well. That's
right, man. Let's do it.
I appreciate you, my man. We'll be in touch. You the real deal, man. I appreciate you, Zach. Thanks, brother.
All right. Have a great day, Kirk.
See you.